All right, here we are watching North Korea, BBC News. This is the announcement that they activated a hydrogen bomb, or supposedly activated it. You can see the North Koreans are excited and elated by it as they get their local TV outside freezing their butts off. They say it's refreshing and maintains a policy of aggression against the United States. There's a few concerns with it. A lot of the experts out there are saying, look, it just wasn't strong enough. It was about, I think they said a 6 magnitude. A hydrogen bomb is more like a 20. They don't know if it's just a bunch of hype from their leader, Kim Jong-un, however you say his name. And it's heightened up tensions again out there. And it's getting into this whole foreign policy thing that concerns me. And it's Obama's inability to manage foreign policy. And let me expand upon that. You had so many situations out there. He's out saying climate control is the biggest danger to world stability. But is it really? And how foolish? It may be an issue. I haven't really decided where I stand on that. But look, folks, you got Saudi Arabia. You have the whole Sunni Shiite thing over there in the Middle East, fighting their proxy wars. You got the ISIS thing committing atrocities throughout the Middle East and Africa. Now I just posted something about Libya with their oil tankers. You have the China. They just landed another plane at the South China Sea. It's upsetting Vietnam. It's upsetting the Philippines. It's upsetting Japan. You have this situation which upsets Japan. China is allied with them, so they say upset. I don't know how much they are. Same with Russia. Over in Europe, you got the whole migration issue, which is causing instability over there. And you might say, well, what instability? It's the internal domestic instability within each of the states. As we're going to cover a little bit about that whole rape crisis going on in Germany. Then what about South America? And something you just don't hear about a lot there. And it's not just the immigration, but the immigration is one of the key factors there. Is why are they coming here? And that's due to the dire economic situation down there in South America. So the whole foreign world out there is just imploding, and Obama seems to think that climate change is the biggest threat, and doing these frivolous gun control measures here in the States is the biggest threat. And then also, let's not forget that he's out vacationing. Now, I agree, everyone needs a vacation, but this guy's excessive, just like Bush and everybody else. And we should, I'm lucky if I get 2 weeks a year. Why do they get so much more? I work hard. I work 14, 16 hours a day. It's a little ridiculous. Okay, this is Frank Abbruzzino. This is the Uncensored Report. Unedited, unscripted. I do the research and I just roll with it. And it is truly one-man operation. People often wonder if it really is. Yes, it is. I do all the websites. I do all the social media. I do all the research for this. I do this production. I do everything. Unfortunately, we haven't made a dime yet. We make a couple dollars, but not really that much. So if you'll go to the uncensoredreport.com and click on the longevity, that's one way I get it, or click on any of the AdSense marketing advertisements on there. You'll help the operation moving forward. So let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to first take a look. Market opens in 2 minutes, so we'll take a look at that after we do the overview of all the news that's out there. And let's see what we got out here. We're going to talk about this, the gun control. Obviously, I'm going to speak on that a little bit more. Some crazy lady, crazy cat lady, and what she did is beat up a grandfather with a cell phone over the cats. This was an interesting story. Most Americans are one paycheck away from the street, something most of us realize. And I was listening to this today at the gym, and they came up and said, look, essentially most people can't deal with even a $500 emergency. They have 63% up there. And the ones that can, the other 37%, maybe not 37%, the other percentage, they might have $500 in the bank, but they don't want to touch it because it's there in case of a dire situation. So what they're doing is they're overextending themselves, taking out loans to cover any emergencies that pop up. And so it's concerning, and I guess it's become an epidemic almost levels here in the United States, and that is due to a lot of the wage cuts, full-time employees getting cut down to part-time or contractors, the 1099. I covered that I think last week in a show. But there's a multitude of variables out there that are causing this. And the government wants it. The bankers want it. They want us extending credit so that they have us out there. They can control us better. 7 types of people you should defriend on Facebook. Probably more than that. This person says, so delete the Huffington Post. All right, that was funny, Wendy. Personal trainers are underpaid. What else we got? This is South China again. See, it says another plane has landed in the disputed islands out there in the South China Sea. And this is alarming to many of the Asian countries that are out there. China's taking over ownership, which they don't have, and it's due. I covered, I think, earlier this time, the maritime lanes that are out there. From a military standpoint, it's strategic, and there's a lot of different reasons why China's out there trying to establish a foothold in that area. Islamic State is threatening Saudi prisons after the executions. They did this primarily because out of the 47 people executed, we all hear about Nimr, the Shiite cleric in Iran, and all the Shiites are upset over it. Well, ISIS is upset here because in the process they killed a Shia, 43 Al-Qaeda Shias, and so ISIS says, "Hey, wait, we're not going to tolerate that." It's really strange, and something I got a better understanding of today. I was watching CNBC, I think. They had the Saudi Arabian foreign minister on there. He said, "Look, all 47 were Saudi residents, Saudi citizens. They went through our Saudi court process. They received Saudi punishment, which in this case was execution. And they said, we don't understand why Iran's so upset. They executed, I think, 700 people last year. They have their own human rights issues. Why are they getting upset with us? This is an internal issue. Why are they putting themselves in here? Again, because it was a Shia cleric." He's got a valid point there. Although human rights wise, why are they executing all these guys? Is it really necessary? I mean, come on. And the beheadings are out of control there. They actually waited until January to behead some other people because their record level of beheadings that have taken place there. Here we got York County, Pennsylvania, deputy sheriff, California, busted for running drugs. Exclusive CIA, Russian hackers, and blackout attack. I tell you what, ever since, I can't remember, I remember doing shows on it, on our electrical grid, and there was an attack out in California. It was, they blew it up, there was firearms, all this stuff involved. You didn't really hear anything about it. The FBI confirmed it. They were looking for the people. They never captured them. After that, the Congress, I believe, put together some kind of committee to look at the grid and the vulnerabilities. They came back and said, yeah, it's really vulnerable. We got to spend millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to upgrade it. And then you never heard anything else. That was about 6 months ago. And the grid continues to be something that's very vulnerable from hackers in this case, and just from external forces that can get in there. And it's not just the electrical grid, it's the nuclear. I think around the same time I showed a video of an individual that just drove right up within 100 feet of a nuclear reactor at the Calvert Cliffs nuclear power plant. And to me, it was important because I used to be stationed there in the Navy. My wife used to work there. I couldn't get past the gate, even though I was in the Navy, and I worked right next to top security VQ4. I couldn't get in there. But now you could just drive through the gate, drive up to the reactor without a problem. Same here, we got our grid. There's a grid right here for the city of Venice. I drive by it almost every day. Easy. Anyone could go there and easily knock it out without any issues. And I guess they said in this committee report there's 9 specific grids that they're worried about, that if they were taken out, essentially electricity would be rendered useless in the United States. It would just be obsolete, and it would take months to bring it back up because they need this specific unit that's only made by a couple countries, and they take a long time to make, and it's in a whole involved process. And I wish I could remember it all, but it was very, very interesting. Water, finally California's getting a lot of water. They needed this water. A major drought going on, but now a lot of the drains can't handle it, and that's a video of a drain that's just exploding from too much water pressure going through there. just what the Middle East needs. Turkey's getting an aircraft carrier. This will not be good. And what you're seeing now is you're seeing Greece out there, and they got that whole debt crisis, and people are like, well, they keep talking about Russia. What's the big deal with Russia? Here's the issue. If Europe's not going to help them with their debt, and Russia will, and they start seeing this aggression from Turkey, such as this carrier, these guys are bitter enemies. And I think there's been some incursions into Greece territory lately with flying and stuff. They're going to turn more towards Russia and less for the West. Turkey is out of control, and the NATO partners need to step up and put this country in check. Erdogan and his Shia mentality that he's trying to develop there in Turkey is reckless. Let's see. FDA rule bans 3 food packaging chemicals which are suspected of cancer within pizza boxes. Pat downs the TSA. Do we need to pat down a 10-year-old? That's what the question is out there. And let's see. Dare to a hood. That was pretty funny. Pentagon avoids the word combat operations after yesterday's. What happened is we supposedly do not have combat operations in Afghanistan. They say they're specialist advisors. What people don't understand is when they say that, they're actually combat forces that are there. I mean, I'm ex-military. I know all this stuff. These guys were in combat, and they were pinned down by a ton of Taliban. And it's basically, I think it was in the Mujar area. Actually, I think I got the information. We're going to cover this in a little bit, because it's very interesting what's going on there. And why are we... we're in an area that before, I think we had 15,000 troops that had to go in there and try to seize that area, which is now lost to the Taliban. But what are we doing with only 10 people there? Let's see. More anti-Christian stuff from Muslims, but you don't hear anything about that. You only hear about Islamophobia. Amazing. What's this here? Water leakage on a roof. This was an interesting one. Poor sleep may actually set the stage for Alzheimer's. It's a really important study that just came out. They say it's groundbreaking, and it leads to Alzheimer's. So very interesting. Check that out. The Starbucks girl got fired over the credit cards, which is a good thing. Let's see. This guy, Florida man trashed a mosque. This is the guy that left bacon at the front door. So leaving bacon at a front door is now a crime. Only if it impacts a Muslim. But attacking a Christian church or a Christian tree or something like that, that's not a hate crime. I'm not sure I get it. 8th graders in Utah may soon be able to take firearm safety 101 at school. And I asked what your thoughts are on that. That's getting a lot of people, a lot of attention. Just put out, and it's getting a large reach on that. Let's see. This is Syria or the ISIS, and now they can bring down fighter jets with this new technology they have. Amazingly, you got, and I cover this all the time, you got Gun Safety 101, you got a reach of 8,000, and again, so you know Facebook algorithms is more, the reach is basically a combination of likes, shares, and comments, and how many people are reached by all of that. The higher the number, the more people that are reached. These were just posted. They'll get up in the thousands. Some go up in the hundreds of thousands on this page, but these were posted around the same time. That's already at 8,000 people reached. This one's at 1,400 people reached. Which one's more important? They're both important, but come on, they're equally. I mean, should gun safety be taught at school? A lot of people would say that's a good thing in case these kids go out and get their parents' guns. Parents leave guns laying around all the time. You always hear about kids shooting themselves in the head. So is gun safety a good idea? It probably is. But this is a missile, needs thermal battery in order to work, and ISIS has it. They're talking about how the Pacific Fleet is shrinking in China for the U.S., even though you got the whole China Sea situation, the North Korea with their supposed hydrogen bomb now, and all that good stuff. Let's see. The discovery of a 300-year-old ship stopped construction. I think this was in Virginia, yep. And they're out there trying to unearth it and see what it's all about. Al-Qaeda 17 Gitmo detainees being transferred, and they're Al-Qaeda followers. Again, 8,000 people on the gun safety, but only 429 people reached on this, and there's such a disconnect. And people will often ask, well, why do you put stupid stuff like that deer picture on the front of the bumper? It's because that is what a lot of people are interested in. You'll see that reach will skyrocket, whereas these these important issues that are important to the fabric of society, important to all Americans, will not be reached. They'll barely be read. And what it does is it drives up the number. And so my whole goal with this page is to insert my threads, my communications, my news reports in between them, and hopefully pick up some of those people that are out there and get some interest and start to get some interest in people beyond a deer mounted to a car, beyond a girl that's a bully that beats up a fat kid on a bus. And I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. Illegal aliens accused of sexually assaulting a 5-year-old. Here's 31. These guys were inside a secret wall, packed inside of a secret wall. They busted them over in Texas. This is Hillary trying to explain the difference between communism or socialism and Democrats. Now, this guy Ed Cochran, he actually lives here. He's a staunch leftist, and it's funny. I mean, I've told everybody I'm right leaning. You watch my newscast, you know I'm right-leaning. Stuff's going to be right-leaning on here. This lady's executed because she wrote about ISIS and the rule that she lived under there. Some Philippine story about drugs out there. NSA trying to 3D craft U.S. carriers. Passenger fares increasing by $3. Hasn't gas dropped significantly? When are we going to see the impact of the gas dropping? We're just not seeing it out there. And why not? This is a report on the hydrogen bomb. Let's see if we can tune into that real quick. Let's see if we got a volume. I think that was prior to them finding out that it was a nuclear test. It definitely was. And let's see, Apple, I've turned this Wi-Fi assist off on all my kids' phones once the upgrade came available a couple months ago. And that's because I read an article specifically pointing to the fact that if you don't turn it off, you could get a big bill like this teen ended up getting. Universal background checks do little to stop mass shootings. That's a study, actually, that came out. Mom encourages kids to steal a cell phone. And what else we got? This is the Benghazi guys, and they're saying how they believe here, let's take a quick listen to it. And essentially what they're talking about here, folks, is this is a 13-hour show, movie, documentary that's coming out. And basically in this, Hillary has been caught on email talking to, I think it was to Rice and then her daughter the next day, stating that the Benghazi strike was not due to the video. And then next thing you know, Rice is out there doing all the talk shows saying it's due to the video. Hillary's out there saying it's due to the video. And now she's come back and she supposedly she told the people that were murdered there, their kids, their parents, that this was due to the video. But now she's denying it and calling them a liar. And so, you know, once again, Hillary's just got some honesty issues, trustworthiness issues. I don't like her. I don't like Bernie because it's socialism, communism edge. I like watching Donald. He's comical. I just don't know if he's a good president. Jeb, I do not want in there. Rubio, do not want in there. I would like to see Rand, but that's not going to happen. Carson, he's an idiot. He doesn't deserve to be in there. I'm still amazed that we live in a country, 380 million people, maybe 320 million voters, or people that could probably vote, maybe 260 million, whatever the number is. We cannot come up with better candidates to run for office besides these idiots. I mean, come on, guys. Hillary, even if you're on the left, how is Hillary your best chance out there? She's not. And it's corporate America. It's the New World Order leaders out there that are determining who's going to be our next president. And it's a shame. Let's see. Video shows high school coach headbutting someone. Libya issues cry for help because the Islamic State attacks their oil tankers. It's getting really bad there, and you're starting to see the ISIS group take more and more control there. You're also seeing it over in Afghanistan, over in that Mujahid Province, where the heroin is all located. God bless America. Schools in a legal battle to no longer recite it. That's the Korean story. Dash cam footage. Clinton takes credit for the gun plan. And let's see. The polar vortex that's coming out. Kidnapped salesman frees himself from a car. I think this is from last night. ISIS blows up 4-year-old child after murdering his father in front of him. And the UK looking at banning Donald from coming there. So those are some of the headlines. Let's check real quick the market. Let's see. We're down 221 points on the Dow. We're down 59 on the NASDAQ and down 26 on the S&P. The market this morning, the talking heads were attributing it all to the testing of the hydrogen bomb, potential hydrogen bomb over in North Korea. I'm not sure how that does it. I think it's the underlying economic issues that are out there are worse than they're saying. They're worse than they're indicating, and they're cherry-picking numbers, and that's what's leading to this downward trade in the market. So right now, it's looking like it's going to be a down day. That could change. Who knows? We'll keep you updated throughout the day on the markets. And I didn't realize you guys were on me the whole time. I thought you guys were on a split screen there. So here I am playing all that stuff, and we're not on my split screen. All right. That just shows you that it's very difficult when you're running a one-man operation to do all this stuff. All right. I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about. And one of the things is gun control and the executive action that was taken. And was the executive action essentially meaningless? What is it really doing? And just the whole executive orders, and then that whole mental issue, which I tend to have a lot of concern with. So you get there, Obama comes out and he passes out, before this whole meeting took place yesterday, before he broke it down, he put out some fact sheets. And the thing is the main policy would have not stopped any recent mass shootings that are out there, folks. The controls expand background checks to cover more private sellers. And although private sellers are not the source of guns used in mass shootings or in these high-profile shootings, they're the very kinds of incidents that Obama claims to be reducing with this. And if you go back, every mass shooter, every high-profile shooter bought their guns via background checks. Even the New York Daily News described Obama's background checks as meaningless. It's meaningless what he's put out there. And what he's doing is he's destroying 225 years of precedents out there. With this expansion of the background checks, it's an affront to the freedom. What it does is it brings private sellers under the purview of government surveillance. Government, regardless of whether you're selling it or not, you're under the purview of them. Even if Americans have been selling guns privately since back in 1791, why, with the swipe of a pen, are you going to start making them monitored and under the government for this? And what this is a not so subtle approach to background checks, universal background checks, a major gun registry. And how about the whole Social Security thing? The attempt to bar certain Social Security beneficiaries from owning a gun. And what he's doing is Obama's push to ban gun possession by Social Security beneficiaries who are believed incapable of handling their own finances is ridiculous. And what happens is Social Security, how they're going to determine this is, I've heard, is through the auto pay. And a lot of people Social Security almost mandatorily makes you do the auto pay. So then, therefore, you would fall into that realm of being controlled on gun control. And Obama is also using executive gun control to place even more regulations. I covered yesterday how he's the over-regulating guy. And it's contrary to what mainstream media reports and the talking heads are out there pointing to. The FFL is already highly regulated. It's monitored by the ATF. It's just another hoop that he's going to want people to jump through. And then the whole smart gun initiative. His executive action instructs the Department of Defense, Justice, Homeland Security, all those guys, to sponsor research for the smart gun technology. I'm wondering if he's in the pockets of some company that's pushing it. And what this is going to do is push more tax dollars out to something that the private sector has no interest in funding whatsoever. Broad interest in smart guns isn't there because the technology is not proven. It's not trustworthy. Some people are worried about the biometric readers. And they just raise concerns that it's reading your palm, reading your fingerprint, prick your blood. And a lot of people, a lot of advocates out there are concerned about the whole privacy issue with it. So has Obama's executive orders on gun control really done anything? No, what it's done is establish that he can go in and incrementally take away our rights without going through Congress, without following the process that our forefathers set up. So there were a few surprises with that whole thing. He basically put out information. They leaked it out before there. Some anonymous source did it. And, it is alarming. The pressuring the Social Security admin to notify the FBI of any beneficiaries who have been designated third parties to receive their benefits. Guns that are stolen, lost, or in transit must be reported to the FBI. Firearms can no longer be purchased by trust or corporations without a background check. State laws protect citizens' health insurance information, and it's being abrogated by the medical professionals as they report you as somebody that may have some mental issues. He had nothing to say about large capacity magazines or the no-fly list. That may come later. The no-fly list still amazes me. And the problem is, he'll say, well, how can you not want to give guns to someone that's on the no-fly list? Because members of Congress have been put on that no-fly list. I put up yesterday where a little kid, since he's been born, has been on the no-fly list. That's why we don't want it. And it's very difficult to get off the no-fly list. And Obama's whole primary objective is one most likely to be challenged is the expansion of the requirement for these gun dealers to go out there and apply for the FFL. The cost factor involved in it, the time factor involved in it, the gun registry. And this is how he proposes to shut down the gun show loophole. The gun show loophole they also refer to as the private sale loophole, the internet sale loophole, where private individuals such as ourselves are free to buy firearms without going to government interference. And they had Judge Napolitano from Fox News come on and he said, hey, look, this is a blatant attack on the separation of powers with the Constitution. And he thinks if it gets challenged, it'll be challenged in court and the challengers will be successful. Because what it's done is you're unilaterally granting ungrantable powers to the ATF. And Obama knows that the ATF agents scour the records of the FFL already on everyone that's buying guns. They go out, they do these checks. Things are already in place. And despite the president's claims that his orders are well within his legal authority and that they will not infringe on our Second Amendment rights, it is clear even to the casual person out there that the president wishes to turn the executive branch into a unitary control unit, making his own laws, judging who violates them, prosecuting the violators. And a lot of people are concerned that this is on the road to tyranny. Citizens will refuse to stand for this, folks. This overreach. This overreach into our freedoms. And that's why gun sales are continuing to set records. You know, I think I posted something today where background checks have increased significantly. And that's because more and more, ever since Obama came out, more and more people are out there purchasing guns. He's probably the best salesman out there for purchasing a gun. I don't think he realizes it, but I think he might be. And you know, I noted yesterday one of my biggest concerns is that Americans that are critical of government could lose their Second Amendment right. And there's this little diagnosis out there. There's a ton of diagnosis. As you know, I'm in the medical arena. But opposition-defined disorder. And what this does is it's in the 5th edition of the DSM-5, which the Psychiatric Association uses. And it says that it's a recurrent pattern of negativistic, defiant, disobedient, and hostile behavior towards authority figures. So psychologists can come in there, diagnose me with that, and the next thing you know, I'm having my gun taken away. And you're saying, well, there's ethics. Folks, I'm in this business. Ethics went out the door a long time ago with a lot of these doctors. You could have a psychologist that supports Obama, and they could diagnose a conservative, a libertarian, a Tea Partier with this opposition-defiant disorder because he criticized authority. Next thing you know, he's mentally unfit for a gun. And there's even more broader ones that are coming out on human behavior. Is this what we want? And it's that's where his latest actions are heading. And you might say, that's a bit extreme. Is it? Is it extreme? I don't know if that's extreme. I don't think it is. So then, that's enough on gun control. I wanted to touch on what happened over in Marja. Essentially, you got these people out there, these soldiers, and they're non-combatants. They're over there in a combat role with Afghan soldiers. Ends up that they were just outnumbered by the Taliban, and they essentially, I think one analyst yesterday said, it's like having a blue dot, and that's us, and then millions of red dots all around it. And so one American was killed. I think 2 were injured. They were pinned down, the Americans and the Afghans soldiers, until some helicopters came in. One helicopter smashed into the wall. They were able to get the Americans out of there. Some stayed back to protect the helicopter. I'm assuming to blow it up later when they got a chance. And then they finally came in and saved them. But, it's always amazing that Obama will sit there and say that they're not there. They're not there in a combat role when they are. And this Marja area of the Helmand province in Afghanistan is very critical because of the heroin that's grown there. And that's another economic area where ISIS is trying to exercise control. ISIS is battling the Taliban there. The Taliban is battling the Afghanistan government there, the United States government there. And it's just a bad situation. And that sucking sound, when we pull all of our troops out, you're seeing what happens. We've seen it with Iraq. We've seen it in Afghanistan. And I get not wanting to put American troops in harm's way, but they're there. And once you're doing a certain mission, you got to have an exit strategy that works. And this is just another reason why a lot of people are very critical of Obama's foreign policy, or lack thereof of foreign policy. Another good example is this whole Saudi Arabia thing. Both the United States and government, the United States and Canada and the UK, are selling weapons to Saudis, okay? And despite condemning Saudi Arabia's recent mass executions, their human rights abuses, the Canadian government and the United States government have gone forward with military weapon sales to them. I think Canada's was $15 billion. It's their largest arms sale contract. And forget the fact that they just killed this cleric, that it's set off a dangerous geopolitical rift. It's widely denounced by many. Even the Canadian Foreign Minister, Stephen Dion, came out and said, hey, look, we oppose what they did. This was not good. And then just a day later, he goes ahead and approves this mega arms deal. Forget what's happening over in Yemen. You know, some of the human rights abuses that are out there. And according to under federal policies over there in Canada, and I think over here too, basically if the military is using these weapons against civilian populations, they shouldn't be sold to them. But that's not stopping them from cutting off that supply of arms to Saudi Arabia. And something you just don't hear about, major media doesn't talk about, is what's happening over there in Yemen. It's a dire situation. These Saudis are executing individuals. You know, it's funny. Some of my sources, I heard on Infowars that Obama is a diehard Shia, and you hear about that from a lot of people, and I've heard that essentially from some of my sources too. And if you look at some of his actions, you almost have to wonder if he really is. My sources, I think, is viable. Infowars, I think, are viable. His relationship with the Muslim Brotherhood, his relationship with ISIS, his relationship with the Saudi king. But a lot of people are upset about that right now because Obama's focused on his legacy. And he's out there trying to ensure this Iran deal goes through no matter how bad it is for the rest of the world, no matter how bad it is for us. We didn't get any hostages back. We maybe have access to their oil. And we're freeing up billions of dollars for Iran, which they're going to go out and spend on ballistic missiles. So they can continue to fight this proxy war with Saudi Arabia. But we sold them, what was it? President Obama announced a $1.29 billion deal for 18,000 bombs and 1,500 warheads out to Saudi Arabia. And you never hear Obama say anything about the atrocities that are happening over in Yemen. You don't hear about the human rights issues with the beheadings. You don't hear about the support for ISIS. You don't hear about the Saudi Arabia involvement in 9/11. The Wahhabism over there. Saudi Arabia is responsible for a lot of this, folks. Yet the president remains quiet. Foreign policy. Germany, we got the whole migration issue over there. You know, he had these monstrous attacks. 1,000 migrants over there. Everybody was shocked. You know, Germans are starting to get angry. It's starting to boil over. The right is starting to get more attention, and it's not unlike the Nazis did when they were, because they were right, back in the 30s, 20s and 30s. So everybody's shocked to read about what these two groups did. How it dramatically escalated over there in Cologne. How 100 women reported that they were either robbed, threatened sexually, molested, or raped outside of this this train station by migrants. The scale of attack on the railway station has essentially shocked everybody because these young guys were drunk and aggressive, young military-age people that are migrants instead of over there in Syria fighting their own damn war. And so many people are starting to get furious. They're furious with Merkel. They're furious with this mayor, Recker. Recker, the mayor, has essentially come out and said they were migrants. Forget the fact that the police are saying they were migrants. Forget the fact that there's video showing they were migrants. She, being a pro-migrant individual, pro-migrant mayor, is saying tough, and she's telling people, well, maybe you need to be more careful so that you're not raped out there. Be more sensitive to the Muslim migrants. And I guess what there's finding is that this whole attack was organized. And so Recker's out there. It's still amazing that she says no. There's no proof that they were migrants. Forget what the police say. Forget what the eyewitnesses say. Forget what the videotape says. And this is a lady that was stabbed in the neck and seriously hurt back in October by a person that was motivated for her support by the refugees. She's that extreme. People do not like her, just like Merkel. And it's probably too late for damage control. A lot of politicians are out there just stirring the pot. Maybe involuntary, but they're stirring the pot. Merkel with her actions, this wrecker mayor blaming the German people, essentially. Covering for the migrants. And it's just a whole ineptness, and they're destroying the whole German culture over there, the whole fabric of their society. I mean, they're taking villages where you have 700 Germans, and they're placing 2,000 Muslims there. People are upset. They're outraged. And this attack is not going to help the situation at all, folks. And this wrecker going out there and recklessly saying that you need to be more careful is ridiculous. Defending the waves of Muslim migrants that are just pouring into Europe. She wants more there. Forget the fact that they're hurling firecrackers at people, they're raping people, they're assaulting people, they're hitting people, they're sexually attacking people. Forget all that. What is wrong with this lady? What is wrong with Merkel? This all goes along with that whole foreign policy, folks. Like I said, Asia, you got Korea, you got the South China Sea. You got Japan now saying they're building up their military now because of everything that's happening over there. China's trying to extend their reach. You got the whole Russian situation with NATO trying to threaten their border with the Ukraine. You got the Europe situation with all the migrants over there. You have the economic situations down in South America. The whole world is exploding all around us. But Obama's more concerned about climate change. Now back here, I talked about the individuals that 63% that don't even have $500 if emergency comes up. And a lot of them are saying, well, we want minimum wage. We need more money. Which they do. I get that. Minimum wage now just is not enough to support a lifestyle here. It's a very meager lifestyle. I don't know how anyone could do it with the minimum wage that they have in place. But minimum wage increases, they were out there. They're intended to boost the low-income workers up. And a lot of people said this will be great. It won't impact unemployment. As you may recall from previous shows, I said that's wrong, man. They're going to lose jobs. It's going to impact unemployment and everything. And this study came out from the National Bureau of Economic Research, and they found that these increases reduced employment of low-skilled workers by 6 points. 6 points. It's pretty significant, people. And what they did is they analyzed these hikes, and they brought the minimum wage from the $5.15 in 2007 to $7.25 in 2009, and the financial collapse. They measured all this stuff. They put in all these analytics, and they said that workers with less than a high school education were hardest hit, which is obvious, the minimum wagers. The unemployment and labor participation has lingered. And it's a problem despite what the National Economic Recovery is saying. That's one thing they don't look at is the participation rate, the quality of the jobs that are out there. And so this group, this lower income group, unemployment rate, they said, is more about, 33%. And what they're finding is that this nonpartisan agency is that it leads to less jobs. Less jobs, folks. We're going to... Hold on. We're going to watch this video real quick. Let me get you set up. And it touches on this whole thing. And here we go. And let's give you some volume.
It took Joel Silverman years to become a master dog trainer.
Roll over.
Good job. But only a few commands to master depositing checks at Chase ATMs.
Little commercial for Chase ATMs.
Designed for
I hate that bank.
So you can easily master the way you bank.
Bastards.
Sarah Hashimoris in the Los Angeles Times newsroom. hiking the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour would reduce total employment by 500,000 workers by the second half of 2016, according to a new report by the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. The current minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, and the move by Democrats to push for an increase is championed by President Obama to help reduce income inequality. Republicans, however, say such an increase would be a job killer because employers would cut jobs if higher wages were mandatory. The CBO's report looked at how raising the minimum wage would affect incomes, employment, and the federal budget, and has landed in the middle of the debate. The agency said that some of those low-wage families would see their income rise above the federal poverty threshold, and that the resulting job cuts would mostly affect teenagers since they tend to have lower wages. President Obama last week signed an order setting the higher minimum wage for federal contract workers. For more, visit LATimes.com and at LATimes.
All right, and there we go. All right, let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Well, that's that whole minimum wage thing. It's distressing to me. I never was a huge fan of it. I was always concerned over it. The other thing I did want to talk about briefly is the education. Actually, how many minutes? I think I got like 20 minutes. And the whole education takeover that Obama was able to push through with the help of the GOP out there. And I'm trying to get up my site right now. I think I just grabbed the wrong document. Where is my document? And I guess we're not going to talk about that today, folks. And basically, the whole, I don't know what I did with it. It's an important conversation, but there's a lot of factual information in there, so I don't want to start going into that direction. We'll save that for tomorrow because I want to make sure I have all the factual information that's before me. Let's just stay on this whole, the whole economy, if you will, and what it's doing. And society living in fear these days and what's going on around us. You got everything from the record-breaking floods. You got the storms in California, record-breaking snow, the heat wave down here in Florida. I mean, I've got my window open. It's sunny. It's going to be like 74 today. I think our coldest day was just a couple days ago. It was in the low in the 50s. And this whole El Nino thing. You got the Middle East crisis, the whole foreign policy thing that I covered, Saudi Arabia, the Shia battling, the North Korea hydrogen bomb. The world is increasingly becoming unstable. And a lot of people are wondering, is this just the beginning? Are there worse things to come down the road? Are we moving into a time when so many of the things we have become preoccupied with fall to the wayside, and we still start focusing on what really matters out there? You know, you're preparing for the future. A lot of people are prepping for major disasters. World War III. Are you prepared when the great challenges come? Will these challenges will reveal your character as things are falling apart around you? People are going to start to look for their leaders. Will you be one of the leaders? Will you be able to the rock in the storm when the waves start coming crashing in? What will you do? Will you sit there and face it? Will you turn away? Have you been training for it? Have you been preparing for it? Were you born with that leadership quality in you? You know, if you go back and you look throughout history, almost all heroes that were greatly admired were birthed during times of great crises, in our darkest hour. Will you be that leader? And a lot of people are concerned about the whole society out there, about the great shaking that is coming. You know, since September, we've had a very high, unusual amount of disasters throughout America. The earthquakes, everything. Oklahoma is the biggest earthquake capital. I got a report here. I don't think it's on here. Oklahoma, and they're attributing it a lot to the fracking that's going on there. Unusual tornadoes in Dallas. We are having here in Sarasota County tornado drills today. I think they're today. Really? Tornadoes? It's almost like the plagues of Egypt in the early days. And a lot of people are just wondering, what is going on out there with society? Should we be concerned? I don't know. I mean, the whole world seems to be falling around, down around us. What do we do? South China Sea. You don't hear a lot about it, but that's just one thing that concerns me out there. The stock market. You know, will we see Asia turn into a major war zone because China wants to set their dominance out there and take control of the South China Sea? Will you see North Korea, who is usually spilling out all kinds of rhetoric from a crazy guy, will they finally step up and say, hey, we are crazy and we're going to fall through with this? Because a lot of times it's just rhetoric that comes out of that guy's mouth. Low-paying jobs. Obamacare, health insurance. Did you know that 1 in 5 Americans just having medical insurance is not enough? And because you got your deductibles, your co-pays, everything that's in there. And they ran this poll basically about medical bills and the average working individual. And they're delaying vacations, they're delaying purchases, they're delaying food purchases, they're delaying dental care, charity. And this isn't just the person that doesn't health insurance, this is the common individual that's out there with insurance. And they're just getting dead. I was talking to a buddy, and he has health insurance, pays a monthly premium, and like most of us, got a high deductible, high co-pays and everything. And he was telling me that they paid... His wife went to a local hospital, I won't name the hospital, and they paid their bills. That hospital was sold, the new ownership took it over, they showed that it wasn't paid, which is very common in medical billing where they screw up your bill, folks. I hope you go over it. And next thing you know, they filed a lawsuit. So he told me, yeah, Frank, look, they're doing it all over because they've ran into a lot of issues. They're trying to pull up all kinds of money, and they're just out there basically putting lawsuits against anyone that owes a dime. And so I did look it up, and there has been a ton by this one particular hospital locally here. A ton of them. And what they're doing is they're filing these claims. They said this guy owed $900. He says, hey, look, I didn't owe anything, Frank. I know I didn't owe anything. And they're saying he owes $900, so they filed suit against him. Basically, it would cost him more to go out and get an attorney and fight this instead of just paying it off. So he ended up just paying it off. And he's like, it's happening. He did his own research. This has got someone that's in the radio business like me. He did his own research, and he found out that it's happening across the board from this one particular local hospital. Like I said, I went into this county's records. It is happening. There are a ton of small claims suits out there. But how many of those people have paid it and they don't have the wherewithal to fight it or to pay it again? This is the impact it's having. And this particular hospital is very aggressive. They used to be very aggressive at collecting bills. I remember I surf a lot. I had my someone dropped in, they cut my foot open, it got all infected. I went to this hospital. I don't think they sewed it up correctly, because what they did is they sewed it up, and they probably shouldn't have, and it got infected with the water. The water's not that clean here in Venice. And next thing you know, I got a $7,000 bill. They send me the bill. Within 2 weeks, I have a collection company call me. I'm like, I just got your bill, I'm analyzing it, and you already sent it off to collections. And they're aggressive, and they did not want to negotiate, they did not want to talk to you. They were just, it was horrible. And that's one of the reasons why I personally, if I don't have to, I will not go to this one particular hospital. That's one of a few variables that are involved in there. But it's a shame what's happening out there to society, folks. It's a shame. Let's do a check real quick of the markets, and I really do apologize. I thought when I pulled it up that all of you guys were on the split screen. and unfortunately that happens to me a lot, where I think you're on the split screen and you're not. The market is out there right now. It's down 224, NASDAQ down 51, S&P down 24. It's looking like it's going to be a bad day out there, and I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon. All right, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. I think I'm somewhere near my time. I might be a little bit short, just don't know. I actually wanted to talk about that education thing, and I could wing it, but what you may or may not know is a lot of times what I'm looking at are a bunch of factual stuff, so I'll take a glance at the facts and try to quote those as I'm ad-libbing in between, because I don't want to mess it up. Due to the fact that I don't make any money on this thing, it's not really a job, I don't have a lot of time to sit there and nail all this stuff down. I'll read an article. If it's interesting, I'll highlight some bullet points that I like, and I'll go through and I'll talk about it. So, I mean, if this was a full-time job and I was getting paid, it would be a lot easier. I could spit this stuff out like crazy. But as it is, I actually have to, after this, run over and start doing my medical consulting stuff. So remember to visit my site, theuncensoredreport.com. Go to the longevity. That's one way that you can support this program, buy your excellent quality minerals and vitamins. And another way is any of those AdSense ads there. Click through them, and that's another way. Now that one's all a numbers game, which I barely see anything, because you need a significant amount of people to get any traction off of it. So I don't even know why I run it, because it blogs down my website, and I'm thinking about getting rid of them. And that's it. So this has been Francesco Abbruzzino. I will see you guys tomorrow. Everybody have a great day.